Welcome to the Haunting Narratives, where nightmares come to life. Sarah had agreed to babysit for the Johnson family on a stormy Friday night. The children, Timmy and Lily, were tucked into bed, and Sarah settled down in the living room, trying to distract herself from the menacing howling of the wind outside. As the clock struck midnight, a soft tapping on the window startled Sarah. She glanced toward the window, heart racing, and saw nothing but rain-splattered glass. She scolded herself for being paranoid and returned her attention to the book that she was reading. Minutes later, another tap, this time more insistent, echoed throughout the room. Sarah's eyes darted back to the window. She imagined all sorts of terrifying possibilities. She got up and approached the window cautiously. With trembling hands, she pulled the curtain, revealing a tall silhouette staring back at her from the darkness. Sarah let out a startled scream and stumbled backward, crashing into a table and knocking over a vase. The children's bedroom door creaked open, and Timmy's voice trembled from the hallway. "Is everything okay, Sarah?" Struggling to regain her composure, Sarah rushed to the door and ushered Timmy and Lily back into their room, assuring them that it was just a gust of wind. She closed the door behind her, but her heart was still pounding. Returning to the living room, Sarah took a deep breath and looked outside. At first, she didn't see anyone and felt relieved. But as soon as she looked more, a figure stood at the edge of the yard. It was the same tall, shadowy silhouette that seemed to sway in the wind. Fear clawed at Sarah's throat, but she knew she had to investigate. She grabbed a flashlight and taser and finally headed outside. Her footsteps muffled by the rain-soaked grass. The figure remained still, just beyond the reach of light. "Hello," she called out. A cold breeze whispered through the trees, carrying a chilling response.
Sarah,
In her panic, Sarah got really scared and dropped the taser. And when her flashlight illuminated her ankle, she saw something truly horrific. 3 kids stood before her, but they looked really different. They had skin on their bodies, but their heads were just skulls. The rain was making their skin melt away, and their skulls had really creepy smiles on them. To make it worse, there were maggots crawling out of their mouths. It was something from a nightmare. The children's voice whispered in Sarah's mind, a mixture of distorted words.
stay with us. Stay.
Sarah ran back to the house. Slamming the door shut, she locked it and rushed to the children's room. Gathering Timmy and Lily, she decided to hide with them in the closet, praying that this nightmare would end. But she heard the same voices again, now coming from Timmy and Lily, the 2 kids that she was babysitting and trying to protect. Their faces started to distort as their eyes became inhumanly wider, and they reached towards Sarah. In a rush of panic, she kicked the closet door open and started running without looking back. She kept hearing multiple voices calling her. She saw those inhuman-looking kids at different corners of the house, looking at her and moving towards her. As she tried to run out of the house, she ran till her legs gave up, and she fell on the ground and found herself in an unknown neighborhood. Luckily, she got a lift from some college students returning from a party night and went home safely. The very next day, Sarah decided to leave the city. Years later, when Sarah recounted the tale to her friends, she could still hear the haunting voice and see those evil children in her nightmares. And though she couldn't explain what had happened that night, one thing was certain: the babysitter's midnight visitor had been no ordinary storm. If you like scary stories, hit the subscribe button. Until then, goodbye from the dark corners. Until we meet in the shadows again.